Hi guys, welcome to Westmonster Uncensored. Michael Heaver here.
Patrick Christie's here.
And I hope you've missed us. We've not had a few shows now. Basically our new format, we're not going to be at set time. We've found that there's so much we want to do in terms of starting to do reports from across the country out and about. So from now on, Uncensored is going to be different times, different days. We'll let you know, but you need to make sure that you're following us on Facebook and Twitter so you can stay up to date. So much to talk about on today's show. We've been asking you, is Sadiq Khan, the London mayor, doing enough to combat violent crime? You don't seem to be very impressed. And I wasn't very impressed, Patrick, with this story that we saw yesterday of this London Assembly tweeting. Guys, this is crackers. Check this out.
Yeah, it was a little bit weird. So basically, as we all know, knife and gun crime is out of control in the capital. So we're all thinking, well, what's to blame? Now, politicians have a habit of blaming anyone apart from themselves, don't they?
They do.
This one really does take the biscuit. The London Assembly has retweeted a report from the Huffington Post that said, could hot weather be behind the bank holiday violent crime wave? I mean, you know, call me crackers, call me old school, but maybe actually the massive reduction in police budget, police numbers and police stations has got more to do with the violent crime epidemic than the fact that the weather's just got a little bit hotter. But, you know, I've been wrong before, I could be wrong again.
Yeah, this is absolutely mad, guys. And as ever, dive in, tell us what you think, retweet us, like us, get involved. Absolutely unbelievable, really. And when you think of the carnage that we're seeing in London at the minute, whether you talk about acid attacks, whether you talk about people being shot, to people being stabbed, people being killed, you know, for the London Assembly to be coming out or even entertaining this kind of dross, not only is it downright dangerous in terms of downplaying the actual causes of this, which in my opinion are because we've gone completely soft on crime. What an insult it is to those perhaps who have got family or friends who have been injured or even killed in these situations. That if it hadn't been hot, you wouldn't have had that nutter running around with acid. I mean, what an absolute joke. Talk about burying your head in the sand.
It smacks of desperation, doesn't it? You know, he's really been, his feet have been really held to the fire on this recently, Sadiq Khan, and for a little period of time now, and he's running out of excuses. And I think if you were maybe the parents of a young knife crime victim, say, or indeed a friend or something like that of one of these tragic victims, and you saw that the political establishment around London was actually entertaining the idea that the hot weather could be behind the violent crime epidemic, I think you would say that's pretty much shirking the job. Bear in mind, this actual HuffPost report includes the fact that hot weather is linked to an increased chance of civil war in these countries as well, in certain hotter countries. I mean, talk about clutching at straws here. This is really out of order, I think.
But guys, you know, at least we've got Sadiq Khan leading London with his typical forthright manner. Here is a clip on LBC. We're going to go to a few comments. Here's a clip of him on LBC.
So what have you done wrong as mayor when we look at these figures, both the numbers of young people dying, young people not dying but being attacked, suffering grievous wounds, and you look at a police force that is hemorrhaging both bodies and morale? What's your fault?
Well, look, I accept responsibility for police in London.
How has your actions contributed to this sense of crisis?
I don't think we've done anything wrong in London.
So that's the Mayor of London there, just casually saying that he's done nothing wrong when combating knife crime, presumably blaming it all on the sun.
Woeful.
Therefore, global warming and presumably Donald Trump as well. So yeah, guys, some of your comments here. Please do dive in. It's an interactive show, so do get involved. A lot of comments.
Don't hold back.
So Jill John's just saying, no, London's never been in such a state. Bring more policemen back. Susan O'Keefe just saying that he needs to step down. And Jean Thompson saying the situation is getting worse and Khan is not doing something about it. So guys, as ever here at Westmonster, if you do like what you're seeing as well, please do donate. Visit westmonster.com/support and do pile in with your comments. It's a hot topic at the minute, quite literally, if you believe the London Mayor.
Well, there was a great tweet earlier from Piers Morgan who basically said that it was great to see Sadiq Khan on ITV's Good Morning Britain today talking about the terrible threat of junk food on public transport, especially refuses to come on GMB when I'm there to talk about the explosion in knife crime in the capital. Grow a pair, Mr. Mayor, says Piers Morgan.
Yeah.
And we've seen the story today. You can go and see it on westmonster.com. Sadiq Khan is cracking down. He's cracking down on junk food ads.
Absolutely.
That's the priority, clearly, because as our young people are getting killed, he's got time to do a round of interviews about, I don't know, banning McDonald's adverts on the tube, as if that's some sort of you know, the number one pressing priority in London at the minute.
I mean, it's time to get tough on obesity and the causes of obesity, isn't it?
Now, eat less.
It's ridiculous. I mean, I think, because the way he's branded it as well is a bit tone deaf. It's a little bit like the fact that, you know, the London Assembly's tweeted out that the Sun might be to blame for knife crime. He's also branded this in a way of, this is what we need to do to save the lives of young people and to reduce the burden on our NHS. Well, last time I checked, Sadiq, less people have been killed by Big Macs than by knives on the streets of the capital. And if you really want to reduce the burden on the NHS, maybe you should look at the fact that actually, like the London Air Ambulance Service is now dealing with more stabbings than road traffic accidents. So, you know, there's a correlation here, and I just find it a little bit ridiculous. It's a classic case, in my opinion. I'm sorry to say it, but it's plastic politics, isn't it? There's a difficult issue here, getting to grips with violent knife crime, and there's an easy issue here, which is banning McDonald's adverts on the tube. He's gone for the easy route.
But you guys know, if you've been following Westmonster, if this is the first time watching, welcome. But go and visit westmonster.com, because we've been tracking all of the horrendous violence in London. And we'll just bring up one of the latest stories that we did the other day. This was about 4 days ago. More horrific violence in the streets of London. Young boys shot and a man in his 40s stabbed. Get into this into your heads, guys. A 13-year-old boy was shot in the head in broad daylight. And there was another gun attack within minutes, a teenager aged 15. Incidents took place at lunchtime on a high street in Wealdstone in the London borough of Harrow. Both suffered head injuries and taken to hospital. Reports were that neither was in a life-threatening condition. At about 6:30 on Sunday, a 22-year-old man with gunshot wounds and New Cross. And later that night, stabbing, and a 43-year-old man stabbed in Perivale. Now, you know, a 17-year-old around that time was also shot dead in Southwark. And, you know,
but this is now just a normal night, this, isn't it?
My worry, guys, is that people will become desensitised to this. Do you know what I mean? Because you'll sit there and you'll think, well, oh, it's just another stabbing in London, you know, it's another machete gang fight, it's another shotgun kill, it's another person had their life absolutely ruined by some thug who's thrown acid in their face and permanently disfigured them. And we cannot become desensitised to it. We should be shocked, we should be appalled, we should be banging the drum for something to be done. And it takes more, I'm afraid, than to turn around and say, well, police numbers don't matter and we're doing all we can. The police need a load more money, the courts need to get a lot more tougher, and the prison system needs a radical shake-up so that it acts as a deterrent, so people are scared of being banged up, knowing that if they go out and they carry a knife, or they carry a gun, or they carry some acid, they are going away for years. It don't matter if it's the first time, second time, third time. That's how you crack down. That's an actual solution. At the moment, for me, we're just seeing, well, we've got some more police out. Okay.
Yeah.
Doing what? What are they doing? Are they stopping searching? Do they have the power to put people away for years? What's going on? We need an urgent, radical shake-up in our justice system. I just think we've gone way too soft.
I mean, I think there is a worrying undercurrent to this for me. Like, we're all used to politicians saying stuff, saying, I understand this issue, here's what I'm doing about it, I'm sorry for this, that and the other, and then actually maybe not doing much. Like, we are used to that. But in this case, we are literally in a situation now where the London Mayor goes on record to say he doesn't think that he's doing anything wrong. He doesn't think there's anything wrong with his policy. He's blaming the knife crime on hot weather. And he's banning fast food because he sees that as a real and pressing danger to young lives in London. Like, that is the reality of the situation. And I think that's more worrying than a politician that actually stands up and just lies to you and says, oh, I've got the issue under control, don't worry about it. Because at least then they've recognised that there is an issue, whether or not they do anything about it. In this case, he just doesn't, does he, it seems? And I think that's pretty terrifying, actually.
Guys, spread the word. Give us a retweet. Give us a like. Go and visit westmonster.com. Because, of course, we have seen today the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission with a £70,000 fine on Leave.EU. And Aaron Banks certainly hasn't pulled any punches. Characteristically fourth right. You can see the story there. Basically laying in to this absurd, politically motivated attack, in his words, investigation from the Electoral Commission. Banks asked this morning, and we'll show a clip in a minute, but asked basically, are you going to pay the fine? Absolutely not. The crazy thing is, as he points out, is that this whole thing started out with this attempt to discredit the election result by basically saying, people were saying there's Russian money and this whole Cambridge Analytica web, and basically they found the square root of NAFL. What they've done is, and Aaron Banks will play the clip in a minute, is basically go after them on management fees.
And also the wider point is
the investigation started with allegations, as you mentioned earlier, of Cambridge Analytica and Russian dark money, and has ended with a technical fine on the disputed amount for a management charge.
Absolutely. I mean, this information is freely available. If you do just go online and have a look at the members of the Electoral Commission, it is staggering the amount of them either actively campaigned for Remain or have direct financial involvement with the European Union or European Commission. So, I mean, that maybe tells you all that you need to know about that. But I think we have got an Aaron Banks clip coming up for you now, which we will see.
Can you tell us, please, what your reaction is to this ruling from the Electoral Commission?
Well, we're fairly amazed. I mean, it's, in my mind, a politically motivated attack. I mean, the Electoral Commission have had 400 plus days to investigate this. They sent us their draft findings, which we responded with a 20-page response along with an independent accountant's report, which they then considered for 3 days and took the word draft off their report.
Are you going to pay the fine?
From my point of view, absolutely not. We'll be going to court. But what I wanted to say was it's a bit, akin to firing an arrow into the wall and then painting the target around the arrow. I mean, this investigation started with allegations, I think, as you mentioned earlier, of Cambridge Analytica and Russian dark money, and has ended with a technical fine on a disputed amount for a management charge. It's absurd.
So there you go. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is these balmy conspiracy theorists who just refuse to believe that they're that out of touch. They're that out of touch that they thought there was no way the country would vote to leave the European Union. I mean, don't forget, you had the big banks throwing money in, the corporates throwing money in, you had the government with a 9 million quid.
What about the 9 million Cameron paid for leaflets?
The 9 million pound leaflet. And you know what it reminds me of, guys? It reminds me of little crybabies, right? They got their asses worked. They had mummy and daddy's bank account backing them up, right? And they still couldn't get the job done. So rather than looking at their own personal failings and the failings of their campaign, which was completely negative and uninspiring, and basically just the entire time, if you remember, the Remainers basically denied things. No, the EU isn't going to do that. It isn't going to do... Well, since we've heard United States of Europe's on the table, EU army's definitely on the table. And, and they just, rather than blame themselves, they just want to try and pretend that the deck was stacked against them when it wasn't. It was stacked in their favour. They had the government. They had the banks. They had the corporate world all throwing money in, all throwing support in. And they got their asses whipped. I'm afraid they're still crying tears. But they need to move on because, as we know, guys, the public now want the government to deliver on Brexit. And someone else, by the way, someone else they will never credit, ever, no matter what he does, is Donald Trump. Some pretty remarkable developments.
Yes, some interesting news, kind of a plot line straight out of Team America. This Donald Trump is going to meet the dumpy despot Kim Jong-un himself in Singapore on June the 12th. This is quite a landmark meeting because obviously the end result of this would appear to be, if all goes well, the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula, something that I was going to say a lot of politicians and American presidents have tried and failed to deliver. The reality is they haven't really tried that hard. So basically Donald Trump is meeting with Kim Jong-un on the 12th of June in Singapore, and they're going to try and make the world a safer place. Apparently that's the gist of what we can take from that. But it's a landmark meeting, and if the end result of this is that North Korea denukes and they have better relations with the South, then, we are talking kind of Nobel Peace Prize territory here, which is a phrase I don't think many people ever thought they would say with regard to Donald Trump, but it looks like that's the case.
I always had faith. I've been a big Trump supporter from the beginning.
Absolutely.
Because,
I'm just saying, but actually the reason is that, if let's be honest with each other, guys, here. If exactly the same scenario had happened now, but Barack Obama was in charge, the guy would be given the freedom of the world, wouldn't he? But because it's Donald Trump, people do seem to still hate it.
There's two types of politicians, guys. There's people that want to be something, and there's people that want to do something. And the reason that you're seeing now in London and in British politics overall, in my opinion, is because at the ideological core, you've got people who don't actually believe in anything. They want the position, they want the ranking, but you know what leadership would be in the case of the London Mayor? If you had a London Mayor, when there was a young life lost, that went down to the community, had the bollocks to speak to the local public and the family publicly, apologise, tell them what he's going to do about it, and actually show some leadership. And that, I think, is the kind of and we've got people saying us patriots love the Donald. That's the kind of politician Donald Trump is. You know, he had Angela Merkel and Macron and Theresa May saying, don't get rid of the Iran deal. And you had him, if you remember, when he was talking about fire and fury and he was talking about Little Rocket Man, there was condemnation worldwide. And look at the amazing scenes that we've now seen with the North Korean dictator and the South Korean president. And that is because Donald Trump ultimately is a very successful businessman who wrote a book called The Art of the Deal, and he gets things done. And you're going to see a lot more of this, guys. You're going to see a dividing line down the middle between the group thing, the people that will follow each other and just condemn anything that actually confronts issues and just want to, you know, don't forget, Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize, right? What's Barack Obama's legacy going to be? What did he achieve? What, you know, when you look at something like North Korea, he and countless other presidents just left it. Yeah. They just thought this is too difficult. It's too difficult. I'm not actually really going to do anything about it. I'll just sort of leave it.
Yeah.
And what's happened is in the meantime, they've developed their nuclear capability and it's become more and more dangerous. And Trump isn't like that. Trump's putting a marker down. He's dealing with North Korea. He's dealing with Iran. As you can tell, I'm quite passionate Trump supporter. I just believe this is a man who will leave a lasting legacy. He's achieving more in years than most politicians manage in decades.
Well, I think it's interesting because one of the reasons why I think people voted en masse for Trump and voted en masse for Brexit as well was that they were fed up with the established way of doing things, the type of diplomacy that we've seen for years, where it is very soft, isn't it? It's very nicey-nicey, but actually the end result is that not a lot gets achieved. You can all shake hands, you can all sign something, everyone's friends, and you see world leaders hugging each other. But practically, take the Iran deal, case in point, you know, you've signed something, it's a landmark deal, Barack Obama can win a Nobel Peace Prize, but Iran have carried on trying to build nuclear weapons, haven't they? So there's no end result. And I think now, at least with Trump, you can argue with the rights and wrongs of whether or not you would go about negotiating these things in the way he's gone about negotiating it. But if the end result is an actual result, as opposed to a bit of a wishy-washy, meaningless piece of paper, well, isn't that what matters? No, just an interesting point here, because obviously we know about the Donald's visit to the United Kingdom on Friday the 13th of June. Is it? No, July. Sorry, it must be July. He's with Kim Jong on the 12th of June. But it's interesting because Turkey's president, Recep Erdogan, he's been set to visit the UK this weekend. Now, we've heard that there was going to be the biggest so what they're calling the biggest protest in human history ever, to greet Donald as he gets outside Downing Street or at Parliament, wherever he's going. But it's been very, very quiet about Turkey's president. Now, let's just run through, shall we, some of the things that President Erdogan's done. He's not exactly famed for his views on equality with women. In fact, he's actually come out and said that women and men aren't equal. In President Erdogan's Turkey, the free press is a myth now.
Well, it ain't free,
it isn't. As of the 27th of July 2016, Erdogan shut down 16 television channels, 23 radio stations, 45 daily newspapers, 15 magazines and 29 publishing houses. He's also taken control of the education system. He's banged up 15,200 teachers. He's removed the licence of 21,000 teachers. He's also put a travel ban on them, so they can't leave Turkey to tell the rest of the world how crackpot the education system is over there. Is all this screaming dictatorship to you yet? Because it possibly should be. And you know, the figures here are absolutely crackers. And in prisons in Turkey, Amnesty International did a report that just revealed, in fact the EU itself has also done a report revealing that prisoners, a lot of them there on dubious circumstances, haven't been allowed legal aid for 5 years. But of course when he rocks up, he'll meet the Queen and everyone will wave hello.
And there you go, guys. I mean, you've got a guy there who's bringing an increasingly Sharia agenda, completely authoritarian, locking up journalists, shutting down media companies, is threatening to flood Europe with migrants. Will you see these virtue signalling muppets out in big numbers protesting against this guy? Of course you won't. The reason that they're going out and protesting Donald Trump, and I find it extremely telling. I was having an exchange with John Sweeney, who's a BBC journalist, who's actually done some good stuff on North Korea. He's been to North Korea, did a documentary. I found it quite interesting. But they have a pathological hatred for Trump, not even for what he stands for politically. They just hate him as an individual, and they will never, ever, ever give him any credit. You know, the whole thing with Kim Jong-un and the South Korean president, you know, the South Korean foreign minister credited Trump. You know, they're actively making the world safer. And all I get when I debate this with people is, oh yeah, but we don't know if anything's going to come from the deal. No, sorry, what? This was a country not long ago. This was a situation that looked dire, that looked like potential, nuclear war even, launching nuclear bombs potentially.
Well, he released a video actually showing him firing a nuke at the White House.
So. And now you've got Kim Jong-un meeting with people from America, people from South Korea. And as I say, the people that don't like, look, you don't have to like people as individuals. We have to get over this as a society as well, I think. This whole idea that it's all about personality and you have to like someone as a person to agree what they've done. Like, I didn't particularly like Barack Obama's politics. If he'd delivered something like this, I wouldn't have turned around and said, well, it's not an achievement, I'm not giving them any credit. Yeah. And again, this isn't like little lefty trolls. I'm getting journalists say this to me. Just grow up. I mean, this is clearly a massive achievement. And as I say, the pathological hatred that some people have from Trump as an individual is making their journalism ever more deranged, out of touch, and completely unbalanced.
Well, Mark Taylor's been in touch. Keep your comments rolling in, guys. Thank you very much. Mark Taylor's been in touch. Say, as I told you before, the liberal lefties have select memories. They seem to forget the facts, he says. So thank you very much, Mark. It's intriguing, isn't it? I just think, look, the biggest thing for me is consistency with these things. If you're gonna take to the streets and complain about one person, i.e. Donald Trump, look, that's absolutely fine. It's your decision to do so. But then when you get someone who's worse, come over here as well, then maybe do the same, I think. And that's where it all falls down for me.
Now, guys, as ever, we bring you everything that's going on across Europe. If you appreciate what we do, give us a retweet, give us a like. Make sure you visit westmonster.com every single day for your daily fix. Sign up to our red alert email on the website, and please do support us. So many of you support us. We're incredibly grateful. But do go to westmonster.com/support. We've got a lot more planned. You're going to start seeing us doing reports out and about.
Yes.
We'll be doing the show as well. We'll be doing our daily stories. So do back us. Back pro-Brexit media, because we need to keep taking the fight to the establishment. Now, we turn to the next story. And this one got Patrick quite hot under the collar, and I can understand why. It's Germany, it's Angela Merkel, it's basket case.
I just find it a bit ridiculous. I'd be intrigued to know what you guys make of this. So obviously we do a lot on the German response to the migrant crisis here, as you will be aware now. They've basically introduced this new migrant reunification scheme, which, look, in principle, you could argue is okay, but the actual reality of what this scheme entails is absolutely crackers. So they do want to grant an additional 1,000 refugees per month the right to settle in Germany if they've got relatives in settled status. Look, get that, that's fine. Prioritising children, of course, that's fine, absolutely. Here's a bit of a weird bit where it gets a bit odd for me. Under exceptional circumstances, it will even allow migrants in Germany flagged as potential Islamists or terrorists to apply for family reunification, provided they can prove to authorities that neither they nor their relatives will pose a threat. Now, couple of things here, obviously. Firstly, if you are already on some kind of terror watch list, you imagine that it would be very difficult for you to prove to authorities that you wouldn't be a threat. The underlying factor in this is, A, that's bonkers, but B, what this shows is clearly how many people are currently in Germany who have links to people that are on terror watch lists abroad, and that now they could have the capacity to actually come. And it raises this question for me, and this is what I wanted to ask you guys. What is the priority here? Is the priority to actually secure the safety of your own citizens, or, to actively endanger them? I don't know. It just seems a bit weird to me.
Yeah, and I mean, there's big ramifications on what's going on in Germany because, we've had another story we've done. Fashion designer Karl Lagerfeld. Now, I hadn't actually heard of this guy, but apparently he's incredibly famous. And I think that just shows you maybe...
He's a style icon, Michael. So
that's probably why I've never heard of him, to be honest. Fashion's not my strong point. But he told Liv Fagora... did she, responding to, did you like my pronunciation?
Yeah.
Responding about Angela Merkel, did she really need to say it was necessary to welcome 1 million migrants? We must remember the past we have in Germany. I hate Mrs. Merkel for having forgotten. So there you go, a major figure. And I think you're going to see more and more of this over the years, guys. We're basically just disgusted with the way that Angela Merkel's irresponsible border policy with the European Union has basically seen no real care, no real degree of security, no real degree of scrutiny. They just opened up the doors, welcomed in a whole heap of people, and you're going to see, in my opinion, sadly, some you've seen some already, let's face it, but in terms of anti-Semitism and things like that, you've got some massive issues now, because you've got large amounts of people who you haven't even asked them, you've not asked them what they believe in, you've not checked that they're not extremists, you've not seen that they want to fit into the German way of life, and they're now there. And I think, you've got massive problems now with social integration in Germany, and Angela Merkel has to carry the can for it. And I think as a result of what she's done, the AfD, the anti-mass migration, Eurosceptic, anti-Euro party, who went from about 0 to 96 seats, I think they'll become the main opposition party and maybe even the governing party in Germany eventually, because what Angela Merkel has done is just horrific.
Yeah, and this is it. When people go, oh, look, I don't like the AfD. They're a bit fruity. They're people call them far right. This, that, and the other. And obviously, there are absolute nut jobs in that party. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them are. And the same goes for any party, by the way. But actually, who is to blame here if they have another election, and even if the AfD win? This shouldn't be a shock to people. And actually, the person to blame in that case is the people that are currently in charge. Because actually, if you want to stop that happening, just create a situation where people don't feel the need to vote for that kind of extreme party in order to get done what the things that they want done. I mean, there should be no need for society, if you are doing your job as a leader, where a party you might regard as being extreme would have the opportunity to actually come close to winning an election. That's your fault if you're in charge.
Now, I know it's Friday, and I'm getting the feeling some of you guys watching have had a couple of sherries or a couple of cheeky sherbets, because I'm noticing a couple of comments here, guys, which are deeply disturbing. I've got Sally on Facebook saying,
Sally.
when are you guys standing for election? And then on Twitter, we've got Spike, time for a Westmonster party to run for Parliament.
Or just a Westmonster party.
I mean, guys, where is this going? Where is this going?
I imagine
guys?
right to the top, Mark.
I mean, what's
Downing Street?
What's the Westmonster manifesto that you guys are wanting? Is it tough on crime? Is it 24-hour pubs as an absolute minimum?
That's something.
In every, at least a couple at minimum in every single town and city. I mean, what are you guys wanting to see? Do you want compulsory junk food ads? Let us know about what would be in your Westmonster manifestos. You'd have to have a snowflake tax, surely, I think.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
If you're going to be offended, then put a couple of quid in the jar, please.
Yeah.
I mean, you like a swearing one that you get sometimes.
Absolutely.
And we've got K-Bear here who's playing. Patrick needs to go full rant mode again. He was a hilarious hype man for Patrick. All his.
Flipping out. Right, okay.
So, I mean, I think we do need a rant, Patrick.
I'm not a performing monkey. I can't turn it on and off.
I think, well, he can. I think what we need, Patrick, is we've got a lot of people tuning in still on Facebook in particular.
Okay.
I'm about Sadiq Khan and I think you should tell the people, if you were London mayor,
right,
what would you do to crack down? See, I like giving the audience what they want. They want a Patrick rant, we need one. What would you do to solve this epidemic of violent crime?
Well, I think it goes without saying that if I was London mayor, given the current state of knife crime, the first thing I'd do is block out the sun, because clearly that is the root cause here of all the crimes. If the weather's not hot, then no one will stab each other, and that is both medical and psychological fact. So, if you want direct action, then that is what I would do. And presumably as well, if you block out the sun, it would reduce global warming. So basically it's pretty clear cut. That's how I'd go for it. But no, on a serious note, if we're doing this, which we've started now,
you start as a finish, I reckon.
The thing is, I do not quite understand how these people have the gall to kind of show their face in public a lot of the time. When you see an obvious problem and you see that you are very obviously not doing what you want, and it becomes obvious to the public that you regard political advantage over the actual saving of people's lives, I don't know how you sleep at night, but there we are. You wound me up and there you go, that's what you get.
You guys are making me blush today. Some really nice comments there. You guys would win, no doubt. We've got Vince, great, decent, informative, fun, and most importantly, right, keep up the great work. And then just a cracker of a suggestion here. What is it? About the Isle of Wight. As it caught my eye. Someone saying turn the Isle of Wight into somewhere to put all the snowflakes.
That's interesting. I mean, it's white anyway, so I mean, yeah, snowflakes and white, it goes well together. Ronnie Roodle just saying in the Westmonster manifesto, it should just be free bacon butties for all Londoners. I mean, there is a Greggs around the corner, but it's not free. So yeah, I would be on board with that.
And Mark wants to know, in capitals, I mean, this is an urgent question. Patrick, what diet have you been on? It's working. You trying to get in his pants or something?
Oh, there you go. So no, look. Well, basically, I've stopped drinking, which is good because stopping drinking has allowed me to take up some other hobbies like crying in the shower and shouting into the darkness, which is good. It's really freed me up. I've just been on this radical new diet of eating slightly less and exercising slightly more. But thank you for
now that is revolutionary.
I appreciate that.
Right, let's get back onto the serious topics now, guys. Just a couple to finish off. The government are announcing that £50 million for grammar schools to take in more kids from low-income backgrounds.
Yeah, it's interesting this, actually.
Always amazes me, guys, when you get the old grammar school debate, that you instantly get all of the privately educated and grammar school educated politicians and journalists all turn around and condemn it. I mean, how can you really condemn giving poor kids the opportunity of a better education. And I think what we've seen, the erosion of social mobility in this country, I think, is directly down to the erosion of grammar schools. I think the comprehensive system, it doesn't offer a personalised education, whether people are academic or vocational or wherever they are. I think education should be about maximising the ability of children. And the problem with the comprehensive system is you end up with selection by wealth, which is that the rich go to very good schools, the poor generally go to much, much, much worse schools. So if our whole idea is not to say kids are failures or win, but we want a system, that plays to the strengths of our young people by having grammar schools, by having vocational schools, by having specialist schools that tailor and make the most of each individual's child's strengths.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, I'll keep it very simple, guys. Anything that can increase more equality of opportunity for anyone, regardless of like financial ability and everything, is something I'd always be bang on board with, and I would expect most people to be. I mean, you'd have to be a pretty nasty piece of work to say, no, let's keep the poor poor and the rich rich. I mean, even if that happens to be what some people think, I very much doubt they would say it out loud.
Yeah, we've got Robert here as well. Thanks very much for your comment, Robert, saying, only just joined you, but the sky is your limits. Well, thanks so much for that.
Cheers, mate.
And guys, just do remember, from now on, this Uncensored isn't going to be at 1 o'clock. It's going to be at different times. We will be previewing it. But what you need to do is you need to make sure you're liking our Facebook page. You need to make sure you're following our Twitter account. You need to make sure that you're going to westmonster.com every single day. Now, as ever, we like to leave you with a cheeky little smile on your face. And Patrick, I'll let you do the honours. A new development in Italy. You've probably been hearing about it for a while now. We've done bits and pieces. There was an election. What's the latest?
Yeah, they do things very differently in Europe, don't they? Because it turns out these countries can just run themselves. Because once you have an election, it can be literally months before you get a government, which is an interesting way of doing things. But in Italy now, it looks as though the Five Star Movement and the Liga, who are both relatively Eurosceptic, both anti-mass migration, are actually edging closer to a coalition deal. It was looking like it was going to be blocked because Silvio Berlusconi's Forza Italia party were getting in the way slightly because, I mean, although the guy is legally banned from standing for office, he was kind of just standing for office. And so they basically just said, look, we don't want him in the way. He might step aside, which just paved the way for this Eurosceptic anti-mass migration coalition to maybe come to government in Italy. They are also thinking of doing something quite unique, aren't they, Michael? I'll let you talk about this one because you spotted this.
Yeah. So I think the Five Star leader, they do a lot of, the revolutionary thing about them is they do a lot of things online in terms of direct democracy internally, in terms of voting for policies and things like that. I mean, it really is the future, very forward thinking, I love it. But I think they're looking at implementing a public vote. I don't know if it's within the party still or actually the wider public, but basically having a system whereby the public would get to vote on policies, you know, like mini referendums and stuff like that. So, you know, guys, I think it's very positive what's going on. I know it's easy to get downhearted and things like that, but I think there's a lot of positive things going on. I think Brexit Britain is ahead of the pack. I think you'll see other European countries follow us out of the European Union, as long as our government have the bottle to stick to their guns and make sure it's a full, clean Brexit. And I just think, ultimately, the idea of trading and cooperating with your neighbours and getting along whilst controlling your own borders and making your own laws and governing your own country, I mean, I think that is now what people want. And I think you'll see election after election after election. We've got Sweden later this year. I think you're going to see people right across Europe vote for an independent future. And I think the exciting thing is, I think Brexit Britain, where we lead, others will follow.
Yeah, I mean, politics comes in waves, doesn't it? And what was right for one period of time, what was popular at one particular time, has a habit of changing. And we are at the crest of one of those waves at the minute. Right across Europe, we are seeing people go to the polls and basically vote against the kind of overarchingly EU manifesto. So, and that's not, that's not me making that up. That's literally evidenced by all of the recent elections across Europe. So we are seeing a shift, and that shift is moving towards national sovereignty, having national control. So yeah, Italy looks like it's done the same.
And there's just a final comment that just made me laugh there. I mean, I don't know what you guys want today. Very funny. We've got Paul saying, voting online, not needed. The Lords know what's best. Well, no, I'm afraid the era of unelected, unaccountable people, whether it's in Westminster or Brussels, governing over the public with absolutely no democratic accountability, I think is coming to an end, and not before time. Guys, I hope you have a lovely weekend. If you do support us, do go to westmonster.com/support and back us. We need your help. Pro-Brexit media need your support. We will keep on fighting for strong borders. We will keep on fighting for our nation's independence, but we need your help. Have a great weekend. Keep your eyes peeled for when we're next on air. As I said, like our Facebook page and our Twitter account, and you'll see the latest on that. But have a great weekend, and see you next week.
Take care, guys.